In this episode of the podcast, we're coming to you from Canton, Ohio at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I talked to Brian DeMarco, a former right tackle for the Jacksonville Jaguars, and I wanted to hear his stories playing against Hall of Famers.
And while you sleep, I mark my goals, stand tall, think clear.
Welcome back to the Modern Old School Training Podcast. I'm Aaron King with Brian DeMarco, and today is a very different podcast from what we usually do when we kind of talk about coaching, we talk about training, a lot of different things, and we've had some guys talk about the NFL draft. This is a really, just look around. If you're on YouTube, you're seeing something.
We're in Canton.
Yeah. So Brian and I, we go way back, but I thought this was a unique opportunity to hear from a former player's perspective, and I want you to tell everyone kind of your background. But while we're in the Hall of Fame, what was it like playing against some Hall of Famers? But before we get into that, tell me a little bit about your career.
So I was the 40th pick of the 1995 draft to the inaugural Jacksonville Jaguars. So their first year, I played for Jacksonville, started every game as a rookie, played for Jacksonville for 4 years, and then went on to sign my UFA with the Cincinnati Bengals and retired from there.
Jacksonville really, they showed how the model should be. They just started left and right tackle.
That's right. We got our bookend tackles with me and Tony Boselli in that first year, but literally Tom Coughlin's methodology, it's truly the blueprint.
Yeah, and that's what got y'all in the AFC Championship so quickly, probably just that
our
foundation.
Second year of existence. I mean, here we were, if you can imagine this, usually it takes time to gel as an offensive line, as a team in general, but in our second year in existence, here we are, playing in the AFC Championship game against the New England Patriots, one game away from the big show. It was amazing.
Who were some – you guys had Boselli. Right. He's a Hall of Famer. Who else played in the Jaguars that was in the Hall?
I actually thought, we're at the draft at the Super Bowl this year where they had the luncheon where they announced next year, who's going to be in here. Yeah. And and Tony was there, and I was hoping and praying he was going to make it this year.
So he hasn't been in. I thought he already was.
No, not yet.
Oh, so he was the finalist.
Not yet. He was a finalist. Not quite there yet. But that team was amazing. I mean, I was just a guy, just another offensive lineman, but had a chance to play with great players like Mark Brunell, Jimmy Smith, Keenan McCardell.
Fred Taylor was one of my favorites.
Fred Taylor, yeah. Freddie T and James Stewart, Stewart.
Yeah. I didn't know you were there.
Yeah. It was Natron Means.
McCardell, right? Keenan McCardell?
Wow.
Yeah, that team was strong.
It was strong. We were strong on defense too. Guys like Jeff Loggeman, Joel Schmingy, Kevin Hardy. Yeah. I mean, it was. We were an amazingly strong team, and man, what great memories they were.
I see that video that went viral of, is it Henderson, the defensive tackle, him just getting slapped up before games. He just wanted to hit him until he tasted blood in his mouth.
Yeah.
But yeah, those were some good days. What I've heard you tell the story of Reggie White. Maybe you have to tell it here, but right. I just want to hear like some guys that you played against that are here immortalized.
Well, Reggie White, obviously, I mean the greatest defensive end of all time. There's no question. He was the perfect combination of size, speed, and smarts. Right? I mean, he was brilliant. Oh my gosh, John Randall.
Oh man,
John Randall, Reggie White.
Did he talk
Warren
about
Sapp?
Warren Sapp.
Yeah, Warren Sapp never shut up.
What about John Randall? Because he wore that face paint. Did he just try to intimidate you, like from a visual standpoint, or
it wasn't just visual? I mean, these guys were trying to get in your kitchen,
right.
Make a sandwich, stay for the day, and they were going to be there all game long. Yeah. But that's just was part of their game. What part of made it so unique, and it would just get you so fired up, but that was the whole point. They would try to take you out of your game, and of course, you learn that as a rookie. It really gets to you maybe the first or second time, but you learn after a while.
Who were some guys you saw on a regular basis that were kind of that top tier?
Well, it's not necessarily guys we saw on a regular basis, but it makes me think of guys even like Bryant Young. Played for the 49ers. He actually was probably the guy that gave me the most fits the most often. I hated playing against him. He was an undersized defensive lineman. He was maybe 6'2",
so he had that low center of gravity.
Low center of gravity. He just had a motor that never shut off. And I remember, that's what makes it difficult blocking for a quarterback at times like Brunell, because you never knew where he was going to be. Because he was so quick, so agile. And I'll never forget blocking him, thinking I have him. Several seconds are going by, and you kind of just get in that mode. I didn't hear the whistle yet, so I may have shut down too early, and all of a sudden, there he is sprinting across the field, making the tackle, where you think, oh my gosh, there's no way he's over there. Yeah. But literally ended up getting a sack, 30 yards away.
Was that one time you played against him or multiple?
Multiple times ended up playing against him.
What's kind of we talk a lot about quarterbacks and film, but linemen are the second most technical.
There's no doubt about it.
So what's watching film?
Unnatural.
Yeah, right.
It's the most unnatural position to play as an offensive lineman, because you're asked to get in this perfectly balanced position, watch the entire defense, know what the most dangerous threat to the quarterback is at all times, know where he is at all times. So no, it's definitely one of the more complex positions to play.
What are some, like, looking at a guy like that was giving you fits and you're going against him next time? What's the film room like?
It really starts getting pretty granular. I mean, you're looking at little things like the position of his feet on the ground, his hands, noticing the coloration of his knuckles, right? How much weight is he putting forward? What are these little clues that he does when he moves a certain way, or he's in that particular stance? I mean, it really gets that detailed, so that when exactly from the position he lines up in, this is what he's going to do. So
you start figuring them out a little bit, because there's the on-the-field stuff you're noticing.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's stuff you don't get from the film.
Yeah, I mean, it's, every player has their tells. It's kind of like playing poker.
Right.
And you just learn to look at that defensive lineman. You're studying him on film, and, of course, you're coaching yourself on the field.
And they're studying you.
Yeah, and they're studying us, right? It's kind of like, playing against a guy like Reggie White, and that he's going to bring his patented hump move.
Right.
And so that you can't do a certain thing, and you have to be balanced, because it's coming. It's going to be third and long at some point in time, and he's going to throw that move. And even with all that anticipation, the difference in being balanced and unbalanced as an offensive lineman is just an inch, right? It's so small. It's such a little detail, and Reggie would catch you and send you flying. Right. It was just his thing, but that's how detailed it is at this level.
Did you ever have a moment where you saw someone on the field do something kind of transcendent in a way that's like, we could have won that game, but that guy did something I've never seen another player? Because you just see the guy make a catch or whatever it is, if it's Chris Carter on the sideline, or just someone that does something that's like, I do.
And it was actually Barry Sanders. And just watching, it's almost hard to explain, because he would do this thing that was almost not possible for other humans. Like, you couldn't tell another running back, hey, go do this during a game, because it was Barry. But I was watching him change field during a play. Like, he's running down the right side, and he changes field, and I see just how low his hips drop to the ground. I mean, his thigh must have been past parallel. It's center of gravity. And then watching him, what was amazing was watching him change direction and be at full speed in like a step and a half. I mean, he was already gone and out the other sideline. And I was like, there's no stopping that. Like, how do you defend that? How do you stop when an athlete has that kind of ability?
Yeah, I haven't seen anyone like him. The strength, Saquon Barkley is pretty close in modern day, just the leg strength. He doesn't necessarily have the bounce, but pretty close.
And I've played with some great backs. I mean, look at Fred Taylor. I mean, Fred was so great to block for because you only had to do your job for about a half a second, right? And Fred was just blowing by you, And then of course guys like Natron Means, Natron Means was just, man, he was going to bring it every time. He might not have juked you all the time. He was going to just flat out run you over, right? Yeah. And there's just still, as great as those guys were, Barry is definitely, as we all know, he's in a class of his own.
Fred Taylor recently he made a case for himself to be in the Hall on Twitter not too long ago.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you look at his numbers, he was listing some of the backs that are in there. We were just talking about how long it took for Dave Robinson to get in the Hall of Fame, 2013. Just the amount of just the players that are in line to get in the Hall. It's pretty amazing.
It's tough competition. A lot of these guys belong. There is just a lot of guys that really belong here, and goes to tell you how elite it really is when you get a chance to be here. Like Boselli, there's no question that he is one of the greatest tackles to ever play the game, and he belongs here. And and he just missed out this year. So just goes to show just how tough it is at getting even to this final stage. But Dave Robinson, a guy like him with the Packers, of winning that original championship, right? The original championship game, the first two actually, right? Yeah. And you're talking about Vince Lombardi in these classic days. I mean,
the stories that these guys have, and just hanging out with these guys like Jack Youngblood and Mike Haynes, and the way that they talk about things that to us are so up here. And it was just casual, something they did.
It's become a very unique experience working with all these Hall of Famers, and kind of being in their world as often as we are now. And it's an honor to sit there and listen to their stories and hear it from them, exactly what it was like. And even particularly one that really got me was listening to Ron Mix. Ron Mix, of course, those of you that don't know, he was a Hall of Fame right tackle for the San Diego Chargers, right? Mm-hmm. But hearing him, the whole situation during the Civil Rights movement, and here he is hanging out with Martin Luther King, that whole movement, playing ball back then, and what that was like, and setting the precedent for today. It's amazing.
It's funny you mentioned that, because I was just thinking that walking through here. So obviously the Hall of Fame, just the history that's here. But seeing the things around the Great Depression or the war, things that were going on from the radio and the helmets, the history, the American history that influenced it, the way that guys were drafted, and I don't mean to the NFL, I mean to war, and the balancing act between culture, American history, in a game.
It's one of the unique aspects of being here at the Hall, of seeing how they pair what's going on in the world with what was going on in football in the NFL at that time. I was blown away, even as detailed as, hey guys, this is what was going on in the world. This was the first traffic light was put out in this year. And here's what was happening in the NFL. So, I mean, the history lesson, it's for any NFL fan, this is a must destination. Yep. There's no doubt.
Well, I appreciate you kind of taking us through some of your personal stories. I thought this was a unique opportunity, because I've been just getting chills walking through this place. Again, if you're not watching on YouTube, we're standing here surrounded by just these guys that built the game. And Brian had the opportunity to play against a number of them, which, I mean, that's pretty amazing.
It's an honor. I mean, obviously, I'll never see this place. So just having the honor of playing against those guys, that's enough for me. That's for sure.
All right. Well, thank you so much for taking time to just kind of talk through it. You won't see me in a suit too often. So again, if you're not if you're not watching, this is also another rare occurrence. Right? But I just thought this was a great opportunity. We'll get back on the podcast here a lot more in the future with our normal content. This was just an opportunity to kind of bask in just the greatness here. So anyway, social media, and
I'm only on LinkedIn, so you can just look up Brian DeMarco on LinkedIn. It's kind of not missing the beard in that profile picture. You'll see it.
Yeah, and we'll do another episode, by the way, where we can talk about just the beard and the
beard deserves its own podcast.
I didn't mention it on purpose, because I want to share that for a whole nother day, because it will be It'll probably be one of the best ones. If not, yeah, it'll be the best podcast.
I'm going to make an app where you can try on my beard.
Yeah, there we go. A little facial recognition. All right, guys. Well, again, follow me on Twitter, Instagram, all at Deep Snap, and we'll talk to you next time.